Hey everyone, what is going on? Elvis here. Today we're joined with Camille from Grim Dawn. How are ya?
Good, how are you?
Really good, thanks. It's currently like 8 a.m. here on a Friday, and I've never been up at 8 a.m. in my life. So if you guys don't know, Grim Dawn is an action RPG. It's a fantastic game, and it's one of those games that has been around for kind of like the early stages. We see a lot of people bringing out certain types of games at the moment, but this is kind of really one of the first in its own way, and it's actually got quite a heavy history as well. So do you want to tell us about just some of the engine that you're working on with Grim Dawn?
So yeah, Grim Dawn started with the Titan Quest engine. Titan Quest being an earlier action RPG that came out in the mid 2005ish or so. It was developed by Iron Lord. Unfortunately, that company had to close down after they released their expansion. But Arthur Bruno, the founder of our company, was able to acquire the rights to use this engine. And so we've been able to take the core of the code, kind of update it, add our own improvements, and optimize it, and eventually create what is Grim Dawn now.
Titan Quest, I've actually mentioned on the channel quite a few times, and it's one of those games where, for my own personal experience about it, it was that regarding like Diablo 2, I'd get burnt out on that game, and all of a sudden Titan Quest came in, and it wasn't quite critically acclaimed straight away, but I found it really enjoyable. I really like the whole storyline and everything like that. But anyway, that's a bit of history about Titan Quest. So when it comes to, say, Grim Dawn, how's the current development going? It feels like it's been, quite some time now.
It does feel like it's been forever to us too, but it's been about 5 years total.
Wow.
But the first 2 years were actually just 2 people with a few contractors. Then the Kickstarter happened, at which point Arthur Bruno was able to bring on more people on the team, including myself. So I have been working on Grim Dawn for a little over 3 years now, and we're finally getting to the finish line.
So there you go, guys, who backed Grim Dawn in Kickstarter. We've got the lovely Camille, who's that's what you're paying for, guys, and it's fantastic. So yeah, can you tell us more about the biggest update that came through very recently, the major patch?
Yeah, that's right. So Build 27 came out just a little under a week ago. That added the 6th and final mastery for the game. We actually originally only promised 5, but we decided that with some of the other competition in the market, that we really needed to kind of introduce an additional 6th one. And it really kind of added a lot of new opportunities for players to branch out into new builds, like the Shaman, the 6th Mastery, adds two-handed weapon combat. It adds a lot of lightning skills, additional pets. So it really opened up a lot of new builds that players were kind of hoping for. And in addition to that, we also did a very thorough balancing pass. We improved a lot of the itemization. We improved the flow of new items that you get, so you get upgrades more consistently. That includes also some optimizations to the game performance and actually 2 small new areas that players could explore. So it's quite another big update.
That's pretty impressive just for a simple patch. What do you guys often think about, the competition all the time, or do you kind of just say, no, we're going to do it our way and make small tweaks? How do you go about that?
Well, I mean, we do have to consider what the competition is putting out there too. Like I mentioned earlier, we felt that we had to bring another mastery in. But overall, I mean, we're trying to make the game we want to play the way we want to do it, and we're not, too concerned about what other people are necessarily doing.
Yeah, I think it's a really good way to go about it, and Grim Dawn definitely has its own flavor. When I play it, it's kind of weird because with action RPGs, you just kind of want to smash through it and play really fast and efficient. But for myself, I really found that I had to, and I know it sounds really cliche and lots of people say this, it's kind of like, say, pandering to the developer, but no, really, honestly, guys, I literally explore every single thing on the map. It just feels like that type of game.
We try to encourage that, yeah. We have a lot of stuff that you can find just out in the world, like secret areas, treasure chests that give you guaranteed epic items, like secret bosses. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to find out there.
It feels really good to just run around the game, to just kill stuff, and it's just really good on that level. So what's your current opinion about the hack and slash genre, just in general?
I think it's become a very healthy genre. There's a lot more options than ever. Players have a lot of choices, and really, I think everyone can find just exactly what they're looking for from the games offered, whether that's modding, single player, online competitive. So
yeah,
there's a lot of options.
It's actually a very wise comment that I think that you've made there, and I bet that when you first started, you wouldn't have thought that it would get to what it is right now.
No, there were really a lot of them coming out about the same time. So it's like, wow, like there's a lot of people here now.
Yeah. I think Grim Dawn's going to do absolutely fine.
We like to think so.
Every single person on my Steam list has this game.
Great.
So yeah, it's just crazy. So what can fans of Grim Dawn expect in more future updates? Like, I know the last one was really big, but what can the fans expect?
Well, pretty much every update we release is kind of huge, and we're frankly kind of surprised just how big they get sometimes. But there's still a lot to look forward to. We still have the legendary items, which is a whole like other tier of equipment on top of the already awesome epic items we have. That's going to introduce all sorts of new abilities, all sorts of game-changing, like class build-defining equipment. We still have an entirety of Act 4, which is going to be kind of a shorter finale to the game's initial story anyway. We will continue it beyond in expansions. So that's going to introduce probably about maybe half of a normal act's amount of content on top of what we already have. We have another roguelike dungeon coming, the one we call Steps of Torment, where you have to have a key crafted to enter, and once you're inside, you can't use a rift gate to get back out. So you get inside, the doors close behind you, and that's it. Like, if you die, you can't get back in. You have to start a new session, make another key.
Wow.
So it's kind of like a single life sort of thing, kind of like if you're playing on hardcore, but for even for softcore players. But to compensate for that, like, there's a lot of really great loot in there, but it's also guarded by traps and really hard bosses and all these sorts of insidious developer tricks. And I guess lastly, we have the devotion system, which is going to be this huge layer of customization that we're adding onto the existing mastery system we have, where you're going to be able to dedicate yourself to the various constellations and deities of the past and unlock their powers in order to unlock some passive bonuses to your already existing strength, and also to apply secondary effects to all of your regular mastery skills. So for example, with the soldier's cadence ability, you might be able to attach a chance to make a meteor fall down on your targets. And that's just one example of many we're working on.
I think it's really cool. It's like a bit of a extra flavor to it.
Yeah, it includes a little bit of lore and also a ton of customization.
Just regarding the lore, how do you guys go about working with it? Like, do you already have a complete set, framework for down the track, for, say, a future expansion and that kind of thing? And also, when you come up with that stuff, do you have, who's writing it, and how do you go about it?
So we do have some core ideas that we want to bring out as we create the world. So, like, for example, we have that conflict between the Ethereals and the Chthonians that we're fleshing out more and more as you continue through the game. But also just the smaller little details like that we kind of leave up to the moment development. So, like, example, like the Black Legion was actually sort of introduced while we were working on Grim Dawn. Like, that wasn't a faction we were necessarily had planned out as we started.
Yeah.
So, like, I guess it's a little bit like we have the core framework that we have and we kind of aim for, but then we also kind of branch out and introduce little things. But in terms of who's writing it, I'd say it's a pretty even distribution among the designers.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes Arthur will write some stuff, sometimes I will, and now we have Eric on board as well, and he has written some stuff. So it's a pretty even share.
It's almost like it's like, I don't know if you guys were inspired by Stoicism or something like that, but it's very like, yeah, it's almost like that, which is really cool. Maybe if I get a chance, maybe you reckon you could pass one of my lore scripts through and put it into the game?
We can certainly take a look.
I'm just kidding, but that would be pretty cool. So do you have any future goals with Grim Dawn, aka major updates, major releases, that kind of stuff?
So we're aiming to have the game be content completed this year. That means all of the acts, all the items, all the classes, everything that we kind of promised to deliver of the game will be available this year. At least that's our goal. And I think we're on track for that.
When you look at, say, other titles, these guys have amazing amounts of team members, staff, time, energy, history, experience, and budget. It's crazy that you guys can pull off a game like this, and I almost feel like a lot of these big companies are going to be maybe not downsizing, but making smaller, tighter groups like this. What's your experience with working with a smaller team? And you guys might not be, next to each other in the office all the time, but what's it like?
Well, it does put a lot more personal responsibility on each person. There's a lot less overhead, so we kind of have to be personally responsible for a lot of the stuff that we put into the game. I mean, the artists might, for example, just, go through a bunch of items and implement them, and then might give them feedback on that. But for the most part, you just kind of give each other guidance and feedback every once in a while. But basically, every person has to make sure that those things go in. Otherwise, the game's just never going to get done. So there's a lot of personal investment.
Yeah, it must be great for starters. It must be awesome being a game designer. A little bit jelly.
I like to think so. Actually, like when I was still in college, at the time I didn't even know there's such a thing as a game designer, to be honest. It's just something that I stumbled on while kind of considering position or job applications after finishing school. It's like, oh, this thing, and I like those things, and I'm actually good at those things. So yeah.
It's really cool. It's really cool. So there you go, guys. You heard it right now. Potential expansion. No, that wasn't really said here. I don't want to.
No, there's definitely going to be an expansion. That's guaranteed.
Well, there you go, guys. Scoop. A expansion. We've got brand new patch that's just come out. Whether you've got Grim Dawn or not, go and purchase it anyway and update the new patch. It's going to be massive. I'm definitely going to be running through it. Thanks for coming on, Camille.
No problem. Glad I can answer your question. Thanks for your interest in Grim Dawn.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. All right, guys. See you next time.